My fiancé was cheating with my best man 2 weeks before our wedding. Instead of canceling and letting them win, I decided to let the ceremony proceed exactly as planned. What my cheating fiancé and backstabbing best friend didn't know. Hey viewers, welcome to the channel. We are just starting and your support means a lot. If you enjoy these stories, please consider subscribing and help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. I'm Marcus, 29 years old, and I should have known something was wrong when my fiancée, Lisa, 27, started staying late at her sister's house every weekend for 2 months straight. I should have trusted my instincts when my best friend Ryan suddenly became distant and awkward around me after years of being inseparable. I should have paid attention when the two people I trusted most in the world couldn't look me in the eye anymore. But I was so caught up in the excitement of planning our future together that I missed all the signs of my life falling apart right in front of me. Lisa and I had been together for 5 years, engaged for 10 months, and I genuinely believed we were soulmates. We met at work, bonded over late nights finishing projects, moved in together after a year, and built what I thought was an unshakable partnership. She was intelligent, driven, and had this laugh that could make me forget any bad day I'd ever had. When I proposed at the restaurant where we'd had our first official date, she said yes before I could even finish asking the question. Ryan had been my best friend since elementary school. Been through everything together: high school heartbreaks, college disasters, career changes, family dramas. He was the brother I never had, the person who knew me better than I knew myself sometimes. When I asked him to be my best man, he got emotional and said it was the greatest honor of his life. The three of us had become incredibly close over the years. Lisa and Ryan got along perfectly, which made me feel like I'd won the lottery in terms of life compatibility. We'd spend weekends together, go on group vacations, and I'd often joke that I was marrying into a ready-made family since Lisa and Ryan were like siblings. Looking back, I realized that closeness should have been my first red flag. Wedding planning process had been stressful but exciting. Lisa had strong opinions about every detail, from the flowers to the music to the exact shade of blue for the napkins. I was happy to let her take the lead on most decisions since she seemed to have such a clear vision of what she wanted. Ryan was incredibly involved too, helping with everything from bachelor party planning to coordinating with vendors. About 3 months before the wedding, I started noticing small changes in both of them. Lisa became more secretive about her phone, taking calls in the other room and quickly closing text messages when I walked by. Ryan started declining our usual weekly hangouts, claiming he was swamped with work or had family obligations. When I'd ask Lisa about it, she'd get defensive and accuse me of being paranoid or clingy. "Can't I have some privacy?" she'd say, rolling her eyes. "We're about to be married, Marcus. That doesn't mean we have to be attached at the hip." When I'd ask Ryan what was going on, he'd brush me off with generic responses about being stressed about work or dating troubles. "You know how it is, man," he'd say, avoiding eye contact, "just going through some stuff." Tried to convince myself that pre-wedding jitters were normal, that maybe they were just feeling overwhelmed by all the planning and pressure. But deep down, something felt fundamentally different about both of my closest relationships. The real turning point came 2 weeks before the wedding. I'd been working from home that day when I realized I'd left my laptop charger at the office. Lisa had mentioned she was spending the day at her sister's house helping with some project, so I decided to surprise her with lunch from her favorite Thai place before heading to get my charger. Her sister lived in a small apartment complex across town. I'd been there dozens of times for family gatherings and holidays. I knew exactly which unit was hers: 2B, second floor, blue door, but when I got to the complex and started walking up the stairs, I heard something that made my blood run cold. Lisa's laugh. That distinctive, joyful laugh I'd fallen in love with years ago, but it was coming from apartment 3A, not 2B. It was followed by a man's voice I recognized immediately. Ryan's voice. I stood on those stairs for what felt like hours but was probably only a few seconds, my brain trying to process what I was hearing. Maybe they were both at her sister's apartment for some reason. Maybe there was a perfectly innocent explanation. Then I heard Lisa say, in a voice filled with affection I thought was reserved only for me, "I love you so much. I can't wait until this wedding is over and we can finally be together properly." Ryan's response destroyed any hope I had of misunderstanding the situation. "2 more weeks, baby, 2 more weeks, and then we can stop pretending. Marcus will never have to know it was us. We'll wait a few months, then you can file for divorce citing irreconcilable differences. He'll be hurt, but he'll get over it." "I almost feel bad about it," Lisa said, though her tone suggested she didn't feel bad at all. "He's been so excited about the wedding, so focused on all the planning. He has no idea that I've been planning my exit strategy the entire time." "Hey, you tried to make it work with him," Ryan replied. It's not your fault that you realized you're with the wrong guy, and it's not like we planned for this to happen between us. Sometimes love just finds a way. I had to grip the stair railing to keep from falling over. The two people I loved most in the world were not only betraying me, but they were planning to let me go through with an expensive wedding, humiliate myself in front of all our friends and family, and then destroy my life a few months later when Lisa filed for divorce. Weren't just cheating on me, they were treating my entire life like a joke. I somehow managed to walk back to my car without making any noise. I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, shaking with a combination of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. Part of me wanted to march back up there and confront them immediately. Part of me wanted to drive home and pretend I'd never heard anything. But a larger part of me, a part I didn't even know existed, wanted revenge. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing with the implications of what I'd discovered. Our wedding was in 2 weeks. We'd already paid for everything: the venue, the catering, the flowers, the photographer, the band. Our families had already made travel arrangements. Our friends had already bought gifts and taken time off work. Lisa and Ryan were counting on me being too shocked and too heartbroken to think clearly when I eventually found out about their affair. Were probably expecting me to either cancel the wedding at the last minute, causing chaos and embarrassment for everyone involved, or to go through with it in denial and then fall apart when Lisa left me a few months later. What they weren't expecting was for me to think strategically about how to handle their betrayal. I spent the next few days acting completely normal while secretly planning the most satisfying revenge I could imagine. I continued with all the wedding preparations, confirmed final details with vendors, and smiled through family dinners and bachelor party planning. Lisa and Ryan both seemed relieved that I wasn't suspicious, which only made their betrayal feel more calculated and cruel. While I was pretending everything was fine, I was also gathering evidence. I started paying closer attention to their interactions, and once I knew what to look for, their affair was obvious. The way they'd find excuses to touch each other briefly when they thought I wasn't looking. The inside jokes that didn't include me. Way they'd both check their phones at the same time and then smile at their screens. I also started documenting everything. I installed a security app on my laptop that would take screenshots every few minutes, which allowed me to capture some of their text message conversations when Lisa would leave her phone connected to my Wi-Fi. I started keeping a detailed journal of their suspicious behavior, with dates and times. Most importantly, I started rewriting my wedding vows. The original vows I'd written were heartfelt and romantic, full of promises about loving Lisa unconditionally and building a life together based on trust and partnership. I'd spent weeks crafting them, wanting every word to be perfect for the moment when I'd pledge my life to the woman I thought I'd spend forever with. The new vows I wrote were very different. 1 week before the wedding, I had enough evidence to confront them, but I decided to wait. I wanted them to feel completely secure in their deception. I wanted them to believe they'd successfully fooled me and that their plan was working perfectly. Lisa seemed particularly excited as the wedding day approached. She'd been glowing for weeks, and I'd originally attributed it to pre-wedding happiness. Now I realized she was glowing because she thought she was about to pull off the perfect crime, getting a beautiful, expensive wedding while planning to leave me for my best friend immediately afterward. Ryan was acting like the perfect best man, organizing last-minute details and giving me pep talks about marriage. "You're so lucky, man," he told me the night before the wedding. "Lisa is amazing. You two are going to have such a great life together." The audacity was breathtaking. The morning of the wedding, I woke up feeling calmer than I'd felt in weeks. I'd made my decision, prepared everything I needed, and accepted what was about to happen. I wasn't nervous about getting married anymore because I knew I wasn't actually getting married. I was just giving a performance, and I was going to make sure it was a performance no one would ever forget. The ceremony was being held at a beautiful outdoor venue with about 150 guests, family, friends, coworkers, and extended relatives from both sides. Lisa looked absolutely stunning in her wedding dress, radiant and confident as she walked down the aisle toward me. For a moment, looking at her, I felt a pang of sadness for what I'd thought we had together. But then I caught sight of Ryan standing next to me as my best man, and my resolve strengthened. He was looking at Lisa with an expression of longing that he wasn't even trying to hide. The man was literally watching the woman he was secretly sleeping with marry his best friend, and he couldn't even be bothered to look appropriately solemn about it. The ceremony proceeded normally through the opening remarks, the readings, and the exchange of rings. Lisa's vows were beautiful and seemed completely sincere. She talked about how much she loved me, how grateful she was for our partnership, and how excited she was to spend the rest of her life with me. If I hadn't known better, I would have been moved to tears. When it was my turn to recite my vows, I pulled out the folded paper I'd been carrying in my jacket pocket. Instead of the romantic promises I'd originally written, I began reading something very different. "Lisa," I began, my voice steady and clear so everyone could hear, "today I want to be completely honest with you and everyone here about the foundation of our relationship." I saw her smile falter slightly, probably wondering why I was going off script from what we'd rehearsed. "I've learned over the past few weeks that marriage should be built on trust, honesty, and fidelity, so I think it's important that everyone here knows exactly what kind of partnership we're celebrating today." Lisa's face was starting to show confusion and the first hints of panic, but she couldn't interrupt without causing a scene. "For example, I want everyone to know about your relationship with my best man, Ryan. Specifically, I want to share some of the beautiful text messages you two have been exchanging." Murmur that went through the crowd was immediate and electric. Lisa's face went white, and I could see Ryan in my peripheral vision starting to move as if he wanted to run. "Here's one from 3 days ago," I continued, pulling out my phone and reading directly from a screenshot. "Lisa wrote to Ryan, 'I can't wait for this stupid wedding to be over so we can stop sneaking around. Marcus is so clueless, it's almost sad.'" The gasps from the audience were audible now. Lisa's mother stood up from the front row, her hand over her mouth in shock. My parents were staring at me with expressions of complete bewilderment. "And here's Ryan's response," I continued. "2 more days, baby. Then we can let him have his little wedding fantasy before we destroy his life. He deserves it for being so trusting." "Marcus, stop," Lisa whispered, but I was just getting started. "Oh, this one's my favorite," I said, scrolling to another screenshot. "From last week," Lisa texted, "Do you think we should feel guilty about this? He's spending so much money on a wedding for a marriage that's never going to last." And Ryan replied, "Nah, think of it as an expensive going-away party. Besides, he can afford it." By now, people were starting to stand up, some heading for the exits, others pulling out their phones to record what was happening. Lisa was crying, but they weren't the happy tears she'd probably expected to shed at her wedding. "But wait, there's more," I said, my voice getting stronger as I fed off the energy of finally telling the truth. "I also want to share what I overheard 2 weeks ago when I went to surprise Lisa with lunch at her sister's apartment, except she wasn't at her sister's apartment. She was at Ryan's apartment, discussing their plan to let me go through with this wedding and then file for divorce a few months later so she could be with him openly." I turned to face Ryan directly. "By the way, buddy, thank you so much for helping me understand what loyalty looks like. Your speech about how lucky I am to have Lisa was particularly touching, considering you've been sleeping with her for months." Ryan tried to speak, but his voice came out as a croak. "Marcus, I can explain." "Oh, I'm sure you can," I interrupted. "I'm sure you have a beautiful story about how this just happened, how you couldn't help falling in love, how you never meant to hurt me. But here's the thing, I don't actually care about your explanations anymore." I turned back to the crowd, many of whom were now openly staring and recording with their phones. "I want to thank everyone for coming today to witness what I thought was going to be the beginning of my marriage, but what's actually turned out to be something much more valuable, the end of my relationship with 2 people who don't deserve a place in my life." I looked at Lisa one more time. She was sobbing now, her makeup running, her perfect wedding day completely destroyed. "Lisa, I hope you and Ryan are very happy together. You deserve each other. You're both people who see relationships as games to be won rather than partnerships to be cherished. You're both comfortable with lying, cheating, and betraying people who love you. You're perfect for each other." I handed the microphone to the officiant, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else in the world. "The wedding is obviously canceled," I announced to the crowd. "But please stay and enjoy the reception. The food is already paid for, the bar is open, and I think we could all use a drink after this." I started to walk away, but then I turned back one more time. "Oh, and Lisa, I'll have your things packed and ready for pickup by tomorrow. I assume you'll be moving in with Ryan, so that should work out perfectly for everyone." The aftermath was everything I could have hoped for and more. Lisa and Ryan both tried to follow me as I left the ceremony area, but several of my family members and friends blocked their path. I could hear Lisa crying and trying to explain to her parents what had happened, but the evidence was pretty overwhelming. My phone started buzzing immediately with texts and calls from people who'd been at the wedding. Most were supportive, expressing shock at what Lisa and Ryan had done and admiration for how I'd handled the situation. A few were critical, saying I should have handled it privately, but I didn't care about those. The best part was that the whole thing was recorded by multiple people and ended up going viral on social media. Within a few days, the video had millions of views and Lisa and Ryan had become internet famous for all the wrong reasons. The comments were brutal, but accurate. People were calling them out for their cruelty and praising me for refusing to be a victim. In the weeks that followed, I had to deal with all the practical aspects of canceling a marriage that had never actually happened. I got to keep the wedding gifts since there was no actual marriage to annul. I lost some money on deposits that couldn't be refunded, but it was worth every penny to avoid being trapped in a fraudulent marriage. Lisa tried to reach out several times, alternating between apologies and accusations. Sometimes she'd claim that she really did love me and had just gotten confused. Other times she'd accuse me of being cruel and vindictive for humiliating her publicly. I blocked her number after the first week. Ryan also attempted to salvage our friendship, sending long emails about how sorry he was and how the affair had just happened without either of them planning it. He claimed he'd been planning to end it and step aside so Lisa and I could have a happy marriage. I deleted his emails without reading them after the first few. The most satisfying part of the whole experience was watching their relationship implode over the next few months. Apparently, when your entire relationship is built on betraying someone else, it's hard to trust each other. Lisa and Ryan lasted about 3 months before their own relationship fell apart amid accusations of cheating and lies. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding my life on a foundation of honesty and self-respect. I started therapy to work through the betrayal and manipulation I'd experienced. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my relationship with Lisa. I threw myself into hobbies and interests I'd put aside while planning a wedding and future that was never real. Most importantly, I learned to trust my instincts again. Signs of Lisa and Ryan's betrayal had been there for months, but I'd ignored them because I wanted to believe in the fairy tale we were creating together. Now I know that real love doesn't require you to ignore red flags or make excuses for behavior that doesn't feel right. 6 months after the wedding that never was, I was happier and more confident than I'd been in years. I dodged a bullet that would have destroyed my life much more thoroughly if I'd discovered their affair after we were actually married. Instead of being a divorced man wondering what went wrong, I was a single man who knew exactly what he wouldn't tolerate in future relationships. Viral video of my wedding vows eventually died down, but I still occasionally get messages from people thanking me for showing them that it's possible to reclaim your power in situations where you're being betrayed and manipulated. Some people have told me that watching how I handled Lisa and Ryan's betrayal gave them the courage to confront their own cheating partners or toxic friends. I never intended to become an internet sensation or a spokesperson for relationship revenge, but I'm glad that my experience might have helped other people avoid being victims of similar betrayals. Looking back, I'm grateful that I discovered the truth when I did. Lisa and Ryan thought they were playing a long game, setting me up for a devastating betrayal that would leave me isolated and broken. Instead, they gave me an opportunity to show everyone exactly who they really were, while demonstrating that I was stronger and smarter than they'd given me credit for. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about hurting the people who hurt you. Sometimes it's about refusing to be hurt, exposing the truth, and moving forward with your dignity intact. Lisa and Ryan wanted to make me the victim in their story, but I decided to be the hero in my own story instead. The wedding that never was turned out to be the best thing that never happened to me.